In 1994, Barrett Martin was the drummer with Screaming Trees. He joined the band after the dissolution of proto-grunge noisemakers Skinyard. The Trees had finally broken through with their landmark 1992 album, Sweet Oblivion, and had spent the next 2 years relentlessly touring the world. Back in Seattle, for a brief break in action, Martin got a call from his old friend, Mike McCready. The Pearl Jam guitarist was fresh from rehab and wanted to talk. "I thought we were just grabbing dinner and catching up on life," says Martin, but he proposed this idea that we form this band. He had just gotten out of rehab with Baker. I hadn't met Baker yet, but Mike said, "I met this amazing bass player in rehab in Minnesota, and he's just the coolest guy, and we should jam." John Baker Saunders was a well-known musician from the Chicago blues scene who worked with local legends such as Hubert Sumlin and Sammy Fender. "So that was the initial jam, the three of us," Martin continues. Mike had already suggested Layne as a possible singer. That's basically the way it went. Me and Mike having dinner, then jamming with Baker, and Layne came in by the second session. It was pretty fast. Originally, the band was purely for fun, as evinced by the serial killer referencing name, the Gacy Bunch. They used this name in order to perform numerous secret shows in venues like the Crocodile Cafe, leaving fans with no clue that the next bar band to step on stage would be some of the biggest musicians in the scene. "I didn't even know we were called that for a while," laughs Martin. "I know that Mike came up with that last minute for one of these secret shows we did, but I wasn't actually aware of it when it happened." When it became obvious that the band was becoming a real and vital entity, McCready suggested a less tongue-in-cheek name. I got it from a term I heard when we were mixing the first Pearl Jam album in Surrey, England. The people who worked at the studio, they told me the rainy season was upon us, which they called the Mad Season. This was in 1991, and I always kept that in the back of my mind as a cool term. It's when the hallucinogenic mushrooms came up. Later down the line, I had wanted to play with Barrett because I thought he was a fantastic drummer from watching him with Screaming Trees. It just came from that. I got in touch with my friend Layne and with Baker, and luckily we all had time to do something. It happened very quickly, and it was over very quickly. The thing about it was, these kind of jams were happening all over Seattle all the time, says Martin. What would happen was that everybody would be home from touring around the holidays, so we'd go to people's houses and there'd be a Christmas party or a New Year's Eve party, and there would be these jams. I mean, at one point I remember one party, it was me and Mike and Kim Thale from Soundgarden, and I think Mark Arm was singing. That was in somebody's basement. Each member of Mad Season brought their own unique musical background and experience in the group. Mike McCready, known for his distinctive guitar playing in Pearl Jam, contributed his signature style to Mad Season's sound. Layne Staley, with his haunting and powerful vocals, added the raw emotional depth to the band's music. John Baker Saunders and Barrett Martin provided a solid rhythm section, anchoring the songs with their bass and drum work. In 1995, Mad Season released their only studio album, Above. The album showcased a blend of alternative rock, blues, and introspective lyrics. Songs like River of Deceit, I Don't Know Anything, and Wake Up captured the essence of the grunge era while offering a unique and introspective perspective. Above received critical acclaim for its musicality, emotional depth, and the chemistry between the band members. The album resonated with fans and critics alike, reaching number 24 on the Billboard 200 chart. However, despite the positive reception, Above did not achieve the commercial success of some of the members' main bands. Nevertheless, the album has since gained a cult following and is regarded as a hidden gem within the grunge genre. Unfortunately, Mad Season's success was short-lived. The band faced numerous challenges, including struggles with substance abuse among some members. In 1997, vocalist Layne Staley left the band. The remaining members tried to revive the band by finding a new singer in Mark Lanegan of Screaming Trees. However, Lanegan was deep in his own substance abuse issues, being dead broke and facing homelessness. There was talks about a second Mad Season album being in the works in the late 90s, even supposedly working on a few tracks which have never surfaced in the 23+ years since. Columbia wanted us to make another record, and we said, "Yeah, let's do it," Martin remembers. Nobody ever quit the band. Nobody ever called up and said, "I can't do this." Mike, Baker, and I had been working on riffs and chord progressions. We went into the studio and started recording basic tracks, and basically Layne never came back. Mark Lanegan came down for one day. He sang on a couple of songs from the first album, but he wasn't ready to sing on anything at that point. The truth was, Layne's health was deteriorating, and I think he really wanted to do it, but he just couldn't. We were going to call the album Disinformation, McCready remembers. We recorded a whole bunch of demo ideas for that, but Layne went back to do another Alice in Chains record, I think. And then he started struggling with his addiction, and we could never get him back after that. We tried. And then I had to get back on the road, and the Trees had to go back on the road, and Baker joined the Walkabouts, so people went their separate ways. It's too bad, because I had expectations for Mad Season. I thought, let's do another record, and see where that goes, and then maybe go on the road. Unfortunately, bassist John Baker Saunders relapsed on heroin and passed away on January 15th, 1999. His death deeply affected the band, especially Barrett Martin. It was a very big shock to me because we bought houses that were just a few blocks apart, and he would come into my house almost every morning, he says. We'd sit and have coffee with my girlfriend, and we'd just laugh all the time. He had a lot of great stories about playing the blues. He and I had talked the night before he died about how we were going to meet and have breakfast at a diner in our neighborhood. He died that night. I got a call early the next morning about how he had died from an overdose, and I was in complete shock, because I had no idea that was even a possibility, because like I said, I saw him almost every day. It was bad. Mad Season disbanded shortly after. Now with one of their band members dead, and the other one locked away in his home, the band was undoubtedly over. History can be cruel to its participants, especially in rock and roll. Since 2 of Mad Season's members died from heroin overdoses since they dissolved, it may seem like Mad Season was a drug-added collective. However, as Martin and McCready explain, it was actually the opposite. Mad Season was a recovery band. That was one of the original intents on my part, says McCready. I definitely wanted to help out Layne and Baker, and myself too, really. We were all on the track together. It didn't work out, unfortunately. It did for some, but not for others. But that was the intent, initially, and to play music, of course. We all wanted to stop drinking and using drugs, says Martin. Mike and Baker had gotten out of rehab. I had just stopped drinking. And you know how it is. You build this mutual support network because everybody's sober and working together and talking about it. You also have to be able to laugh at all the nonsense you got yourself into. And there was actually a good and lighthearted atmosphere of support in the first jam sessions. I remember how everyone was feeling good and laughing. It was during that honeymoon period when you're newly sober, and you're like, wow, there's a whole world that I've been missing out on. I don't know what was going on with Layne exactly, but I do know that he was happy and he looked good, and he was very excited to do a side project. Because he'd always done Alice in Chains, he wanted to do something different. I think he wanted to write his own lyrics and just see what he could come up with on his own. Despite their brief existence, Mad Season's legacy lives on. The band's unique sound and introspective lyrics continue to resonate with fans of the grunge genre. The album above remains a testament to the talent and creativity of its members, showcasing their ability to push boundaries and create music that transcends traditional genre labels. Above is considered one of the best albums to come out of the 90s Seattle scene, and is still very popular amongst fans today. Moreover, the members of Mad Season went on to have successful careers in their respective bands. Mike McCready continued his work with Pearl Jam. Layne Staley remained a prominent figure in Alice in Chains until his untimely death in 2002. And Barrett Martin continued his musical journey with various projects. The impact of Mad Season can be seen in the influence they had on the grunge genre, and the lasting impression they left on fans and fellow musicians. When speaking about the re-release of Above, Barrett Martin said, "In a very real way, I feel the spirits of Layne and Baker. I can always feel those guys around. They were helping to guide this thing together. I did a lot of meditating and praying about what was the right thing to do, because I wanted to be in memory of them. But I also want people to hear a great band and some great new songs. I think their spirits being involved is what got me and Mike working on some stuff together, and I feel very blessed.